Hello, BookTube. Well, I come to you in a little battered shape today. Not only am I wilting just a bit under Boston's unrelenting heat dome, but I'm also coming off that most wretched of all maladies, the summer cold. That's why my voice is even sexier than usual. And I thought I'd pull myself through with a tag. I am actually behind on tags, and behind on complaining about tags, because in addition to being behind on tags that people have tagged me in, I'm also behind on a whole bunch of neat-looking tags that people are doing willy-nilly all by themselves because they hate me. But anyway, this one I was tagged by Ben Sanders, and it's called the Pokemon Go tag. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? I had to Google the poop out of it. I had no idea what it is. Turns out it's some sort of very popular video arcade game that you kids are all liking. It works for me. So it's a couple of just about a dozen questions. Let's get right to it. Number one, Pikachu. What is the first book series you remember collecting? I don't really collect things, but in terms of accumulating, you can see that I accumulate things. That I certainly do. And the first series that I think I ever did that for was the old Star Trek volumes written by James Blish, a hack author who was mailed scripts of the TV show, and his job was to churn out, 30-page short stories and make 8 or 9 of them into a volume, and he made 12 volumes. And I followed them as they were coming out. We were so hungry for Star Trek when there was none. So I think that would be the first. And since then, it's been, the old Ballantine Black Spine Tarzan series with those wonderful covers, first by Frank Frazetta and then by Boris Vallejo, or any number of things like that, where there's a specific edition that I like and I want them all. Number two, Bulbasaur. Your favorite made-up creature in a book. Once upon a time, that would have been Donald Trump. But that's not funny anymore, so I will just fall back on Meg. Another brainless prehistoric dinosaur that lives to destroy things. Number three, Charmander. Favorite book where fire is present or important. This will be an oldie but a goodie for me. There's a New England author named Charles Carlton Coffin, who did an enormous shelf full of books on regional Boston and New England history, and he did one on the Great Boston Fire of 1872, a cataclysm that is not well enough known in national history. People remember the Great Chicago Fire, which happened the year before, but they don't remember the Great Boston Fire, which was this huge chunk of Boston that was just devastated. You look at the pictures of it the morning after, and it looks like a bomb, like a war happened there. So it would be his book on the Great Boston Fire. The Great Boston Fire of 1872 is very much due for a really good new narrative history, but I'm not aware of one, if there is one. Question number four, Skirtle, the last book that made you cry. I'm afraid I don't cry at books, and I'm using my iPad here because the heat dome is making it a little prohibitive for me to be haring all around the apartment. And some of these things I don't actually have physical copies of, just electronic copies. Number five, Pidgey, a book that got away, lost, or never returned. Now, I've made a point of mentioning on this channel that I don't lend books, because no good ever comes of it. No one has ever returned a lent book satisfactorily in the history of lending books, going all the way back to the beginning, the very first example that we know of in the Bible, when God gives Moses the first volume of the first version of the Ten Commandments. And what does Moses do? He destroys it. He was the very first person who had to go back to the person who lent him a book and say, can I get you a gift certificate or something? But in one case, I did. I had the David Wormsley edition of Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. 3 beautiful volumes in a slipcase, and I don't know why. I had an old scholarly friend who, was in straitened circumstances. I had the books. He very much wanted to read the Wormsley, and I said, why don't you take this and take your time, and I'd love to talk to you about it when you're done. And I lent it to him. And you never see them. You never see that set either in hardcover or in the Penguin mass market or the Penguin Black Spine trade paperbacks. You never see them used. And he took them and he was grateful, and his eyes watered up and whatnot. And what did he do 3 weeks later? Die. And what am I supposed to do to his tearful widow? Say, I'm really sorry about Gil, but can I have my book back? No. So it's gone. The nerve of some people. He actually did take it with him. Number 6, Jigglypuff, favorite romantic chick lit book. Now, I bet you'd all think I'd scorn this. But no, one actually came to mind. It's a novel called Dedication by Emma McLaughlin and Nicola Krauss, about a girl who grows up with the love of her life is someone who goes on to be essentially Justin Timberlake. He goes on to be essentially a one person star, and it splits them apart, but then it brings them back together. It's just a wonderful book. I thought it was extremely well done. Number 7, Pollywog, a book you didn't think you would enjoy, but surprised you. Actually, I just remembered I have pictures of these. This is Dedication, and I have a picture of the book that I didn't think I would enjoy, but did, and I've mentioned it here recently. It's Hitch 22 by Christopher Hitchens. I didn't think that I would like it. I thought it would be mostly horn blowing, but there's quite a bit there that's very good on the working life of an author. I like those parts a lot. Question number 8, Golem, a book that scared you as a child. I faced down as a little tot much scarier things than books. Books did not scare me. And they still don't. Except for the Alan Moore Jerusalem. I'm quaking in my boots about that, but only because I think there's a chance I'm going to be asked to review it, and God help me if that's true. Question number 9, Slowpoke, a book that felt like it would never end, but that you really wanted to finish. I don't understand questions like this. I read at the same speed, period. So I'm not ever in a book thinking, oh, is this ever going to end? I know it's going to end. I know exactly when it's going to end. Let's just move on, shall we? Question number 10, Hypno, the last book that made you feel bored or sleepy. Booktube, I have 2 words for you. Alice Munro. Question number 11, Crabby. You're probably wondering why I didn't start with this one. Has a book ever made you angry? And if so, which one? Well, millions of them have made me angry. I get angry all the time. My visceral reaction to what I read has never calloused over, and I pray it never does. But there's one that came to mind. I have a picture. It's Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dunbar. Deeply stupid books about how, hey, your common sense about this thing is wrong. It's the exact opposite of what should be. Hey, there's a good chance the sun really does revolve around the earth. Hey, the drug dealer should buy life insurance. Just, hey, I'm gonna take a couple of dumb statistics, I'm gonna manipulate the crap out of them and throw them back at you. And who's gonna know any different? The scientists, eggheads, maybe, but not you or me. Hey. I ripped Super Freakonomics, a gigantic new one, but it doesn't make any difference. The cult of stupidity had already started, and we're seeing, the first fruits of it now. I blame Super Freakonomics for I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. If those books hadn't softened the ground, everyone in America would have heard that and instantly said, that's nonsense. But no. I think it's making me angry all over again. Number 12, Coughing, which I've done a lot of lately. I'd be making 3 videos a day if I hadn't felt like a doormat. Best death scene in a book. Well, of course, again, there are countless possibilities. I have one in mind. It's for the comic book fans out there, and they're going to know what I mean. If they're comic book fans of any long standing, they're going to know what I mean. I'm, of course, referring to Thor 362. To the death of Scourge, the Executioner. A villain in Thor comics who decides at the very last minute, against overwhelming odds, in the land of the dead, to redeem his life by standing alone to guard the rear as the heroes leave. And it's Walt Simonson wrote it. Walt Simonson drew it. You can't really tell from this picture, but in this signature panel, Walt Simonson actually signed it at the bottom. Knew perfectly well he was doing something immortal in comics. They sing no songs in hell, nor do they celebrate heroes, for silent is that dismal realm and cheerless. But the story of Jalarbru and the god who defended it is whispered across the 9 worlds, and when a new arrival asks about the one to whom even Hela bows her head, the answer is always the same. He stood alone at Jalarbru, and that is answer enough. Comics doesn't get any better. Where are we here? Okay, number 13, Togepi, a rare book you wish you owned. There isn't a single one. I don't care about them as objects. Question number 14, Eevee, the sweetest, cutest story you have ever read. That would be Cy Montgomery's last book. She just had a great book called The Soul of the Octopus. Before that, she did a book called The Good, Good Pig, about raising a gigantic hog that she called Christopher Hogwood. It's wonderful. Just brilliant and heart-wrenching. Beautiful. And sweet. Question number 15, Mewtwo. Which standalone made you wish for a sequel? This also is going to be a bit of a surprise, but I can't help it. I calls it like I sees them. It's this one. Michael Bergen's book, The Other Man. He was a shirtless himbo on Baywatch, and he wrote a book when those years were over about being the lover of Carolyn Bessette while she was the lover of John Kennedy Jr. I went into it with knives drawn and loved it. He's a natural storyteller. And I've always wished that he would write a book about his years in Baywatch. He was a star for years and years of the world's most popular TV show. Any confidentiality agreements he might have signed have got to be over by now. And he could write a heck of a book. And Baywatch is about to be in theaters again. I think he should, if he happens to be watching. I'd be happy to help. Question number 16, Team Rocket. Best phrase used for a villain. First thing that came to my mind was the song from The Grinch. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch, where the line is, your heart is full of unwashed socks, your soul is full of gunk. Question number 17, Team Instinct. Favorite team in a novel or series? Those of you who know me in real life will know there can only be one possible answer to this question. The Legion of Superheroes. A 21st century team of teenagers who band together to fight crime across the galaxy. Let's see here. Question number 18, Team Mystic. Favorite book that has magic in it? The book that I chose for this one is entirely composed of magic. It's J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, the mythological backstory to The Lord of the Rings. But whereas in The Lord of the Rings, the story is moving from a magical realm to the real world, in The Silmarillion, it's the whole thing is composed of magic. It's still in the myth time of history. And it's fantastic. It has dull spots, but it has great spots too. Number 19, Team Valor. What series do you wish you could be resurrected for one more title? For me, that would be a Star Trek series, a very old one. This is Sauter Marshak and Myrna Culbreath, The Price of the Phoenix, a novel in which an evil scientist, who's not really evil, he's sort of megalomaniac, develops a functional immortality machine. And it had a sequel called The Fate of the Phoenix, but in The Fate of the Phoenix, everything is still up in the air. There should be a third book, but it's been 40 years, so I don't think it's going to happen. Question number 20, gotta catch 'em all. Which books are you most eagerly anticipating in the next year or so? Well, there are countless of them, but there's one that I wanted to show you. It's this. It's by Alex Beam. It's called The Feud, or the fight between Nabokov and Edmund Wilson. I'm greatly looking forward to it. I think it's in the mail to me. But and that is it. That is the Pokemon Go tag. Sorry for the length of the video. I'm a little out of practice making these things. And I have no idea who to tag, because I'm assuming all the young people out there have done this already. I'm just hoping this video will upload at this length. But it was a blast. Thank you, Ben. And I'll see you soon, Book 2. Thank you.